Hey guys, I know I'm early. It's like 11 a.m. I have a million things to do today and a whole lot of questions from y'all. So I wanted to get on here early. I know most of you watch the recording anyways, so I'll get it on here a little bit earlier. Hopefully you can watch it during your lunch break or whatever. Um, First few things. I've actually had a few instructors who have been really struggling lately to get people in their classes and just really feeling down on themselves. There's always things we can do to fix that, guys. So if you want to work with me, I'm happy to do that. What I do is I have people send me videos, or if you're local, you can come to my studio and we can ride so I can see what you look like and what we're working on here and little tweaks that we can make to make things better. It helps a lot with confidence. It helps a lot with the little things that maybe you're not noticing you're doing. So if anyone's interested in that, if you're starting to feel down on yourself and that's all it takes is sending me a video, getting a little critique, and then improving a little bit, or even if you're not feeling down and you just want to get a little bit better at what you do, because that's what we all want, right? I'm happy to do that. I usually charge for that. First time I can be a little lenient. I really just, honestly, I want you guys to get better. So whatever it takes, message me, we'll figure it out. So Elena was asking about teaching with power. Elena, I've talked about this a few times. You can go back in some old Hoerner happy hours, but describing coaching with watts in a really quick Hoerner happy hour 5-minute thing is going to be hard. I would highly recommend if your studio wants you to start using watts and power and FTP and all that good stuff, I would recommend that you take a course for it. I could give you a ton of detail on it, but there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of different ways to use it as well. I always recommend spinning power. They have a whole course. I've done it. I save everything. It's amazing. The main thing is, honestly, a lot of people don't think about this when they train with power or when they coach with power, but it's as hard. So it's hard for you to learn how to teach with power. It's 10 times harder for your riders to understand what power is. So start small. I honestly just start with trying to have people pay attention to the number on the screen. So guys, hey, you might have never looked at the power number on your monitor. Let's do that today. So then I'll coach them through, we're on a flat road, take a look at what it is. And then we go through a hard effort. Hey, check out your power, see where it is now. And they start to get a gauge for, oh, hey, power means I'm working hard if that number's high. And what's the highest it's going to get? What's my average power at the end of class? Those sort of things, and get people comfortable with paying attention to that number and knowing how to benchmark themselves, because it is a very individual thing, as is heart rate, which is the other thing. So I got a question in an email asking me to talk about heart rate monitors and heart rate training. Both heart rate and power are very valuable to coach with and to teach your riders how to use. I prefer power because power shows you exactly how hard you're working, whereas heart rate is the response to the work, so it's a little bit lagged. Heart rate is important, especially in terms of someone who's struggling with any sort of health condition. You want to make sure that they're paying attention to that. But it's a little bit harder to coach to, I find, because it's not as, it's more reactionary, and sometimes people react a little bit slower, a little bit quicker, depending on fitness and all that stuff. So I prefer power. I think it's a little bit easier to coach with and a little bit more fun to coach with, but using both of them is important. If people in your classes are wearing heart rate monitors, you definitely want to know how to coach to it. So it depends on your clientele and what they want and what you want, but all of these things are super beneficial. And I've talked about both power and heart rate monitors. You can check out on YouTube. I post all the old Hoerner happy hours, so go check those out. Let me know if you have specific questions. We can dive into it, but I go through a lot of the overview there. The only other thing I'll say about power is understand what FTP is, functional threshold power. Sometimes, I forget, spinning calls it something different, or it's a little bit different of a test. It's like personal power limit, something like that. Either way, you want to understand what that number is and how to get to it. There's a lot of different ways you can test to get to an FTP. Once you know that number, you can coach to it. It's basically the hardest sustained effort that you can hold for 60 minutes. So not many people are going to do a 60-minute FTP test, but they have shorter versions of these tests that you can do to estimate FTP. In general, a very, very rough estimate would be if you did like a 5-minute, 90 RPMs at the hardest gear you can have, what is that power, average power over those 5 minutes, and take like 80% of that, and that's probably your FTP number, and then you can coach based off of that. Learning how to coach based off of that will come with that course that I told you about, or a lot of research on your own. You can Google this stuff, FTP tests and RAM tests, and how to teach with FTP, how to teach with power. But again, it's going to be as hard for your riders to understand how to use it as it is for you. It's going to be harder for them, actually. So you need a solid understanding of it if you're going to use it to coach. And you're going to need people to want to get with it. Now, Elena, I think you mentioned you have like glow colors that correspond to power. So that could be a really cool way to teach with it, but you're going to have to totally understand it yourself before you even go there, because you want to be comfortable, right? Before you dive into that and you're trying to teach it, you want to totally understand it yourself. So just take some time. I wouldn't jump right into it. As soon as you get those new bikes or whatever it is, the new system, learn it yourself for a while and get comfortable with it. Try it out on your own, and then try and teach it, because otherwise it's just going to feel like you're going somewhere that you're not ready to go yet, and it's going to make you less confident. It's going to make you a little insecure on the bike, and we don't want that. So do your research, take one of those courses if it's helpful, and I'm sure if they're getting it at your studio, there's going to be people who understand it there, because why would they get it otherwise? So see if you can find a mentor at your studio or your gym, whatever it is, who can kind of show you the ropes. So hopefully that was helpful. And as you get into it, whether it's power or heart rate training, if you guys have more specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. But as a broad overview, it's really hard to dive into a 5-minute fully explaining how to use either of those in a class, because it takes years to really understand it. So hopefully that was a little helpful, give you a basic overview, and we can talk about it more as you go. Okay, somebody else, I got a few email questions, so I'm going to go through those, and I'm not going to call out the person, but I do want to answer them. So someone asked, how do you deal with some that don't like loud, or some that like loud music and some that don't? I personally love it loud, but I've experienced some people walking out. So I always announce at the beginning of class, and I'm not even the loudest person in our studio. Some people like it really loud, but we have earplugs in the back. So I always say, you know, this class might be louder than you're used to in terms of music and me yelling at you and energy. So if you don't like that, go grab a pair of earbuds, even if you don't want them right now, just so you have them in case you want to put them in during class. You're probably going to have people that don't come to your class because of that, and that's fine, because you're going to have people who come to your class because they like it loud. So it's that balance of, you know, you win some, you lose some. But as long as you're being safe with it, you don't want it so loud that you're blowing people's eardrums out, right? But if you like it, the level it's at, and other people like it, but not everyone, that's okay. You're not going to get everyone. That's fine. Some people are going to want it really quiet, and then that will piss other people off. So it's a balance. You're never going to please everyone. We know that. As instructors, we're always going to get complaints no matter how good our class is. You just have to go with it. And then same person asked if I do combo classes. If so, how much cycle, how much strength? So I'm assuming you're talking like a boot camp, you know, maybe some dumbbells or something. I have done them in the past. I don't really do them anymore. At least, you know, our studio doesn't do them, and I don't teach many places that do. But I would usually I actually started off teaching 50-50 on the bike, and then we got off, we changed out of our shoes, and then went over and did some boot camp stuff. I like the idea of doing like 5 on the bike, 5 off, 5 on, but when you're wearing cycling shoes, which I prefer people to do, it's too hard, because I don't want them jumping or using weights in cycling shoes, and switching constantly is too hard. So I'd say 50-50, or I actually started to do more of a 75-25, you know, most of the class on the bike, about 45 minutes, and then 15 off, for a couple reasons. One, people prefer that. A lot of people really like being on the bike, and that's really why they come to class. And then that last 15 minutes is just a hardcore, we do like Tabata or some heavy weight stuff for just a short amount of time. And if you're doing metabolic conditioning with weights, 15 minutes is going to feel long. So you don't need that much time to do it. So I would do more of a 45-minute, 15 off the bike kind of thing. And you can switch it up. You can do the weights first as well. So it really depends on what the goal of your clientele is and how you want to structure class. But you don't have to do the same thing every time, right? Mix it up, make it exciting. 50-50 sometimes is cool too. So it's up to you as an instructor, and I don't know what your experience is, whoever asked this question, as a trainer or a group fitness instructor otherwise. So maybe you're more comfortable on the bike, or maybe you're more comfortable off. Maybe that determines how much time you spend in each place as well. So make it fun, make it work for you. I'm sure people will enjoy it if you give them something to enjoy, right? So just have fun with it. I think that's all. Okay, I ran through those really quickly. I was a little worried about the power heart rate monitor thing. I really do want to answer, if you guys have specific questions, I want to go there. It's hard to give such a broad overview, but please come back and ask as you start to learn more about it. And I'm going to talk next week, guys. I've had a lot of you say that you've been teaching like an insane amount of classes every week. I know some of you are group fitness full time, and that can get exhausting, especially as cycling instructors, because as cycling instructors, we're usually on the bike. We're getting a little, I teach boot camps and stuff as well, and I'm just walking around. I'm not really getting a workout when I do that. Even when I'm not going my hardest on the bike, I'm still doing a lot, and I think it's the one group fitness class where as an instructor, you're going to be working hard more often than not. So we need to protect our bodies. We need to protect our health. And I want to talk about that next week. So tune in if you're someone who works out a million times and then also teaches a million times a week. We're going to talk about some strategies to stay healthy and stay in your power. So tune in. And next week is Christmas. So for any of my Christmas celebrators out there, I hope you have a lovely holiday. I cannot believe that it's almost 2019. Where did the year go? But this has been awesome. And for all of you that gave me feedback, I asked, and there's still time if you haven't done this yet, but I asked for some feedback from the crew to see what you guys are liking, what you're not liking. You can go back and check the last Hoerner Happy Hour. I asked about it in there. 3 questions, super simple. If you have time before the end of the year to send me a message or an email with those, I'd really appreciate it. I just want to make this group as good as it can be. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back next week after the holiday, and I hope you all have a lovely holiday and time with your family, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.